So where have I been? I have been on a journey to be a Nintendo YouTuber, so I wanted to focus on that. You are not here for that. Today is going to be a video that I've been meaning to do for a very long time now, and that is cartoon reviewers and this never-ending modern SpongeBob argument. Now, I think the main thing that people like to do is, this is obviously right off the bat, SpongeBob literally made our childhoods for millions of people, and unless you're the type of person to say that you weren't allowed to watch SpongeBob for whatever reason. I've heard some responses say that because it was demonic. Okay, I think you were watching a different SpongeBob, but okay. But no, SpongeBob literally made our childhoods. We see SpongeBob memes everywhere. This is my recent favorite, if you're wondering, and just saying. There's no denying that SpongeBob made such a huge impact on cartoons, media, and culture. And for someone to experience OG SpongeBob for like late 90s and early 2000s, including the movie, the timing would have been really perfect for somebody to look back on OG SpongeBob and really notice a difference in the quality of the show. How drastic things changed. Again, this would have been the perfect timing for someone to start up a YouTube channel and start talking about the show and give their opinions on the newer episodes. Now, if you're not really familiar with old YouTube, throughout the late 2000s and during the early 2010s, reviewers were such an important part on the site's history, and that would go on until like the early 2010s. And I won't deny that there is still an audience for this, but looking back, it's not what it used to be. Like, the popularity it once had, it really isn't there, but there's still very much an audience for that. People who were making videos around that time are still making videos. But as someone who grew up on that, looking back, I realized that a lot of these people really, it's very interesting. A lot of these people, let's say, they are very passionate about what they're talking about in more ways than one. That is not a bad thing, but sometimes they treat fictional characters like actual people that if they see their video, leave a comment saying, yeah, I really enjoyed your video. From now on, I'm not gonna act like that and change my ways. Thank you for telling me these things. Like, no. A piece of media that was very much intended for a very young audience. Now suddenly they want to talk about story progression, character development. Literally, this is the worst piece of media they've ever reviewed. And it's for toddlers. That is not to say that we can excuse like bad writing or bad characters. That is absolutely not the case. So you are more than welcome to have critiques on something. But how I see it is, are you self-aware? Like, at some point when you're editing your video, didn't you stop to think maybe I'm overreacting? On a more serious note, obviously sending threats to somebody over an episode that they worked on is never okay. There is no excuse for that. Someone would get so mad, like actually like really mad, I'd kind of be like, I would think that they're doing too much. Like, I understand you have like these strong emotions about this piece of media, but let's put that energy into something else. I can't help but think, whenever the SpongeBob fans see something new, like a spin-off, a new movie, or something along those lines, see it as a threat to their childhood. Mind you, a time that no longer exists. Like, I'm sorry. And that is not to say that modern SpongeBob has its problems, because it does. But the one thing that has never sat right with me is how people express their frustrations with modern SpongeBob. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And that is relying on Stephen Hillenburg. Yes, there is people out there who don't use Stephen Hillenburg as their main argument. But when some people want to bring up the argument of why modern SpongeBob is bad, they bring in Stephen Hillenburg because they use his name in such a manipulative way. Now it's like, how can you disagree on my take if that's what Stephen Hillenburg would have wanted? You must not really care for this show if you think that Stephen Hillenburg would have been okay with how modern SpongeBob is. Oh, so you're one of those people that actually like modern SpongeBob and you're just willing to consume anything. That is what I feel like happens if you disagree with them. Yeah, obviously there's people out there who don't need to rely on Stephen Hillenburg for the sake of their own arguments. Nothing like Stephen Hillenburg wouldn't have wanted this, or that he's rolling in his grave right now. But unfortunately, these types of people get drowned out by that crowd. And still to this day, there is so many people that believe that misinformation, which is honestly so sad to see. Because how is it that you're not taking the time to do your own research and educate yourself? The only explanation that I may have for this argument is that these fans want to live in their own fantasy. This disturbing fantasy that involves someone that's no longer with us. That is the best way I can describe that. Look, I'm sorry, not sorry, but old SpongeBob is never coming back. I think there is nothing you can do about that. Like, you can get mad all you want. It's not happening. At this point, there isn't really anything new to add to this modern SpongeBob is bad argument, because everything that has been said before has already been said. They would just be repeating what has already been said. I mean, the only thing that you can really add something to modern SpongeBob argument is the spin-offs and the movies, because that's something that's its own thing. Now, obviously, for the first SpongeBob movie, there is nothing surpassing that. It's literally what people think of when they say SpongeBob movie, because the first one is so iconic. Now, Saving Bikini Bottom was rough. That has to be my least favorite movie out of all of the SpongeBob movies. Going back to people having extreme emotions about a certain piece of media, I think what people fail to realize is that when you display this sort of behavior, people find it weird because it's literally you. And what I mean by that is, take Nostalgia Critic for example. His character is very much this over-the-top critic with a larger-than-life personality.
Shit! So it starts off like that copter was taken down years ago. And then they're like, get out of the copter or we'll shoot. And then he's like, wow! That's a transformer, you know, it's so cool! And he's just like, everyone's like, ah! And there's this kid, you know, he's trying to get laid, and so he buys this car. And it's like the coolest car in the world!
It's clearly an act. That's why you see a lot of crazy antics. Because imagine a character like the Nostalgia Critic being an actual person. That would be kind of weird. I'm not saying that everyone needs this character to put on screen, to put on a show for the audience. Like, no. But in my humble opinion, I think there is a proper way and mature way to better way of displaying yourself on screen. So finally, we're at the point in the video where this is where I got my main inspiration to make this video, and it's a video by Patrick CC. If you're not familiar with Patrick CC's content, he is basically like another Sunny V2 or Internet Archive. The best way I can describe this sort of content is the watch mojo of the commentary community. Very clearly made for people that have nothing else better to watch or just bored. At least that's how I see watch mojo. The fans, the movies, Stephen Hillenburg's passing, and the spin-offs. Again, that video feels like just one giant recap of the show. Things that you've already heard before. And that video made me realize how old this argument is. Now most of us grew up on that. Because all things aside, my main goal with this video is to not be another one of these videos. I wanted this to come from a place where I could express frustrations, concerns, and calling out behavior that's really weird or just uncalled for. Obviously, I don't have anything against Patrick CC. I just don't agree with that particular video. And one that's worth to mention is that one video of spilling the milk. More specifically, this clip.
Don't put his fucking
Do not put his fucking name on this movie.
You evil. You shit on his grave.
Top it all off with a poop-flavored cherry. They place an in memory of Stephen Hillenburg at the end. No, you don't get to. You don't get to do that. You don't get to literally defile everything SpongeBob grew to be in just one simple movie and act like it's okay. What makes me so angry is that they did this and they honestly just stole his first movie and redid it in their own coat of paint. They changed the art style so it's not obvious, but this entire movie just has so many ideas and shots just ripped from the first. I mean, just look at this. You can't hide it. You literally stole Steven's masterpiece and took a giant dump on it. You thought you were slick by disguising it in gorgeous animation, but I see right through you.
Yeah. By the way, they removed that. You did in fact work on this movie. Okay, it's your channel. Possibly one of the most disgusting and disturbing things in the SpongeBob fandom is the See You in Hell Stephen Hillenburg video. Now this is an analog horror that was... See, here's the thing. I really don't see the appeal of creepypastas anymore. At some point I did, but now looking back, they weren't really worth my time. They may be worth your time, but for me, no. If you're not familiar with this creepypasta, it's basically a story about Stephen Hillenburg killing his wife and haunting the tape. That's it. And what I realized about this is that they chose to do this because shock value. It's almost like they said, hey, let's take someone who is dearly missed and dearly beloved and let's put them in this disturbing situation. It is such a gross way to get attention. Also, you have to keep in mind that Stephen Hillenburg was one of the few people that didn't turn out to be a horrible person at Nickelodeon. So for someone to make something like this is just so disgusting and disappointing to see from the fandom. I really wish more people would realize that using real people in your analog horror or creepypasta is never okay. And another thing that I never liked from the fandom was SpongeBob in the 2010s had this weird fascination with torturing Squidward for some reason. Much like with a lot of cartoon reviewers, I did not like that, and Red Mist did not help. I know, a lot of creepypastas did not age well, this being one of them. Yes, I know, it got referenced in the show. But like, I'm sorry I don't like seeing that sort of stuff on a character that I like. For somebody like Squidward to have like this huge passion for art and performing, it's just no. There has been a retake on Red Mist, only this time it feels more than just another creepypasta, but it treats the horror elements really different. Compared to the original version, it has a sense of atmosphere that a lot of creepypastas don't have. When we get to the ending, it's a really bittersweet moment, a complete 180 to the original. Instead of being this lost episode where it was never planned to be found due to the subject matter, the added epilogue featuring SpongeBob and Patrick is just something that sticks with you. And you may not realize that right off the bat, but you do impact people one way or another. There's people that you're going to have an impact on, and it makes you forget that this is a creepypasta. It is really something special. The internet has really taken SpongeBob matters into their own hands, or specifically putting SpongeBob, this happy, lovable character we all know, into disturbing situations. Sometimes when you're this big of an iconic character, people will find ways to interpret said character in different ways, or in ways we never expected someone to do. And sometimes the internet can be really weird with that. I kind of find it fascinating, but at the same time I really don't, because I personally don't like seeing that sort of stuff. I know a lot of people do, but for me it's just not something that I would go out and watch. But in one instance, one that I keep coming back to is called Mr. Krabs' Final Hours. It's also known as And Nothing Happened. I keep coming back to this specific meme because the whole point is Mr. Krabs, Squidward, and SpongeBob dancing, and it's always some realistic but yet disturbing text in the background. And it's also really similar to the "Oh, that's not" meme. This is accompanied by the audio track Final Hours, also known as Last Day or Clocktown Day 3 from Majora's Mask, which is honestly really fitting for this meme. Yeah, the world can't really end like that. Not something you'd imagine SpongeBob being portrayed in, but again, the internet gets its hands on millions of things. Making this video has made me realize that, despite everything that's been going on with modern SpongeBob, Steven Hillenburg, and the fandom, there is no denying SpongeBob's impact. And sometimes people don't know how to express certain appreciation for somebody, and so in some extreme cases, it falls into this parasocial relationship. Now, a lot of us, when we hear parasocial relationship, we think of this high admiration for somebody or a group of people. That's not always the case. Sometimes a parasocial relationship can be with ill intent, or kind of having this fantasy of, sometimes it's imagining somebody being a horrible person. I know that sounds really messed up, but it happens. They think that they know the show better than anybody else, and they still keep up with a lot of things regarding SpongeBob, and that's what I feel sometimes when somebody gets really defensive about SpongeBob in general. Now, as for me, when it comes to SpongeBob, I don't watch SpongeBob anymore. If I do, it's for the early seasons and a couple of the movies. Besides that, I don't really keep up with SpongeBob. The early seasons will always be there, but I think it's really time to move on from that. Who knows how this series is going to end, but until then, this is something we can do.
This is the greatest day of my life!
Your life sounds pretty boring.